if you do watch BK Live, you know we like to go beyond the headlines of stories making news in Brooklyn. So let's get right into it. We're joined by two reporters from the news site DNA Info New York. Joining us is Amy Zimmer, who focuses on real estate and education over at DNA Info New York. Thanks for being here today, Amy. And we want to welcome back to BK Live a familiar face, if you've been watching and know DNA, Noah Hurowitz. Nice to see you again.
Okay, reporters, I like this. I feel like I get a chance to get caught up on all the inner workings of what's going on in Brooklyn. So, Noah, can you start us off? You've been doing some reporting on the rapper Troy Ave. Can you tell us what's going on with his Instagram situation right about now?
Well,
Roland Collins, government
Roland Collins, legal name. So I've been covering, Troy Ave was involved, allegedly, he was, because he was shot. He was involved in a shooting at Irving Plaza on May 25th of last year at a T.I. concert. There was a brawl in the green room, very chaotic situation. Shots were fired. He got shot in the leg. His friend and bodyguard, Ronald McFadder, was fatally shot in the chest, and two other people were injured. And Troy Ave was arrested the next day, shortly after police released this just crystal clear surveillance footage of him running out of the green room and letting off at least one shot. People diving for cover. So for a while, it was the case was just against him. He was charged with attempted murder and weapons possession because they found the gun in his car after he went to the hospital. Almost immediately afterward, though, there were rumors swirling that this podcast host, Taxstone, who's a hip-hop podcaster with a history of, just making sort of abrasive statements about a lot of people, but particularly Troy Ave, they had a beef. So there were rumors he was involved. There was video showing he was there, and then in January, he was arrested on weapons possession charges. For bringing the gun into the club, and he was arrested by federal authorities because he was charged with buying the gun from a stopper.
Now, has anyone been charged with the actual murder?
Nobody has been charged with the actual murder, but in statements in court, federal prosecutors have made it pretty clear that they think that Taxstone fired the fatal shot, and they've actually said that they have a witness prepared to testify that he was the one who shot the...
But this thing is like the story that keeps on giving.
Right.
It's been like over a year, and every day there's a new wrinkle, and the latest thing brings
let's talk about the next
this?
thing. So Troy Ave was on he did an interview with the Breakfast Club a couple weeks ago, and in that interview, he sort of dissed the family of Ronald McFadder. He said that the sister and the mom came out the woodwork and didn't let him do the sort of lavish funeral that he wanted to do. He wanted to parade him through the streets of Brooklyn in a horse-drawn carriage. But they buried him in North Carolina. And what they told me, and the family has stayed mostly quiet for until now, but they spoke to me and the sister and the mother. And what the sister told me is that they buried him in North Carolina, where she lives, because they didn't want Troy Ave to be able to make the grave a spectacle. Because they have, over the last year, Troy Ave has used the shooting and a subsequent shooting in East New York or Brownsville over Christmas to sort of boost his street cred. And now he just released an album comparing himself to Tupac. It's called New Pac.
I think I read something. The sister was saying, like, if you want to talk to us, don't talk to us through Instagram. He said, my mother isn't even on Instagram.
Right, so they criticized him in an interview with me, and then he released, he did an Instagram photo of him and Ronald, and included, after plugging his album, included a lengthy and somewhat rambling apology to his friend's mom. But when I reached out to them, they said that he hadn't actually reached out to them. He just did it on Instagram. And the sister was like, my mom doesn't have Instagram. How is she gonna see that? And she told, actually, I was texting with her last night, and she told me, we still haven't heard from him. Even after they said, say it to our face. She texted him and reached out via Instagram, and despite that apology on Instagram for, publicly, he still hasn't reached out.
So from Noah, the world's unlikeliest hip-hop correspondent who's dived into this world, let's go to Amy. Your beat is in real estate, and we've been following this Litch story since the very beginning.
Right.
When it was open as a hospital, there were some promises made about affordable housing, what's going to happen, but we see what has happened, and it ain't affordable in this here
realm of existence.
There's some people who can afford it. Maybe if you're selling books like The Governor. $8 million for a townhouse.
Right, right. $8 million. Do you have $8 million
Sure.
lying around? Sure. I mean, those townhouses will be beautiful, though. But there will not be any affordable housing, and that's because this project would have required a rezoning that would have required city council approval, and it would have been a complicated process. And I think the developer decided, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. No affordable housing, no school. There was also going to be a school involved.
What happened to the school?
Exactly.
What happened to the school? You talked
Right.
about it.
Which residents really want, especially because
schools are
there
overcrowded
are
over there.
overcrowded schools in that
We're
neighborhood.
adding more capacity.
Exactly.
But if you have $8 million, your kids probably won't be at the PS whatever.
Right.
We're looking at some of the apartments right now. This
And the
is
rooftop decks and
this is
views
going to
of the
be
harbor.
a system of new housing. So this is a landmark building that we're looking at right
Right.
now, and then there's new construction
Right.
going along
Right.
next to it.
And the whole project will be done in 3 phases, and so this is just the first phase. And this is that landmark building that used to be the hospital, and then the 8 townhouses, and then there will be 2 more phases, and I think one of the buildings is going to be 28 stories
Yeah.
in the next phase, and that.
So is anyone in that neighborhood, because they have a very active, like the Cobble Hill Association,
That's
they're very
right.
active. So is anyone mad at the city that they dragged their feet so long that the developer said, screw it, I don't need your subsidies, no affordable, we're just going to build it because the people are going to buy it?
Right. I mean, people in the neighborhood are upset, and the strife actually goes back to the sale with the state. I mean, that they're still upset about that,
their hospital.
and they think that Fortis, the developer, got the land and the site for
Sweetheart deal.
a pretty sweet deal. So they're still upset about that, and they feel that even the name of these buildings, they're using vanity addresses, right? So it's
They're
no
like,
longer
"This isn't your
Henry,
neighborhood."
right?
Yeah.
It's no longer Henry Street or Amity or Hicks. It's River Park, run 1 River Park, 2 River Park, and so people in the community feel like that's
away.
You're right. They feel like you're turning your backs on us. You're not even going to be integrated into the neighborhood, and so they are really kind of upset. But you know what? This is an as-of-right development. It doesn't need any city approval, so they don't have that much say.
Good, I mean,
So I used to cover this when I was at the Brooklyn paper, and I covered that area. And I remember in the meetings, the developers from Fortis repeatedly said, you know, there was a lot of opposition, and they would say, look, we can build this as of right, or we can go through the review process, which would have gotten some of the amenities like the school that they were offering to sweeten the pot.
Right.
So I haven't checked in a while, but what it seems like has happened is basically their threat to bypass the review process and build as of right and not include the amenities is what has happened.
Right.
On the other end of development, you have a story about the corner of Bedford and Fulton in BedStuy. What is it, the Bowebi brothers?
Bowebi.
Yeah.
Boweba brothers.
Bowebi brothers.
So we're losing a discount store, but are they going as of right? There's no city.
It's an 80-story building, 80-foot building. It's not, you know, it's as of right. But it's interesting because actually about a block away near Franklin Street, I did a story a week or 2 ago, I did a story about another 8-story building. So that's 2 8-story buildings, which, you know, it's not that, in Manhattan, it's not that tall.
Yeah.
But along Fulton Street, it's a relatively low-lying area.
Right.
So that's 2 projects within about 2 blocks of each other where there's going to be 8-story mixed-use residential and commercial developments. And I think that says something about sort of the direction of Fulton Street. And
Well, I mean, yeah, just take a walk down the street.
Well,
you know,
listen,
just
we're
one of
in
these-
the-
yeah.
the
But that's the most
cavern.
amazing thing is just with the rezoning. It's like, you know, like you said, Fordist company said, hey, we want to put affordable housing in here, and they weren't able to get the zoning for it, and now it's a wash. But, you know, if you go through Williamsburg, they had no problem getting that rezoned. If you go through here, they had no problem getting this rezoned, and I don't know. What other things should we be aware of on the interwebs right about now? I also understand that there's going to be buses arriving in Brooklyn now that have Wi-Fi. They already brought those out in the Bronx, and they brought them in Brooklyn. Well, no, you can actually charge your phone on. You can charge your phone on the buses now. You don't
Anyone
think
who knows
Are
me
you
knows
kidding
that
me?
my
You
phone is
ride a bike.
perpetually
You
on
ride a
14%. So I'm not the guy. I don't care. I wouldn't spend a
This
dime
is a
on this.
game changer. Buses with Wi-Fi and charging ports?
I hate
Amy,
it.
what do you think about that?
There's gonna be those jerk-off teenagers who
Exactly.
are just
Yeah.
playing their music out loud. Like, I don't need that in my
I
life.
get to the bottom
I don't
of
ride the bus
my
either.
battery charge at about the end of the day. I just need a little.
I'm happy for it because me and my brothers have a shared plan, and even though I have a work phone, I still
keep the
use the most
Wi-Fi.
data on my
Right.
personal
The free
phone.
Wi-Fi.
So maybe if I'm on the bus and I can be constantly scrolling Twitter
Yeah.
on the bus, I'll be able to save my brothers a couple
We gotta
bucks.
close some of your windows.
So, but Amy, between Link NYC and buses and now in the subway, you can't escape the Wi-Fi's.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see what people watch on there.
Are you gonna have they have new boats now too? Lunchbox.
Promise, I'm
SS
like
Lunchbox.
40
How did they
seconds
come up
away
with the
from a
name
tinfoil
Lunchbox?
hat.
School kids, second graders, they decided. So they left this decision up to the kids.
They let the kids decide.
They let the kids decide. So who?
Children are our
Lunchbox.
future.
And also Governor's Island. You're going to be able to get to Governor's Island from Red Hook.
South Loop now.
Yeah.
So before we get out of here, we know that we're doing our town hall on the people, the press, and the president, and you guys are doing some work to strengthen the press where you actually are employed.
Yes, so we voted overwhelmingly last week to join the Writers Guild of America East, and by we, I mean the editorial workers of DNA Info and Gothamist, which for those of you who don't know, merged recently. DNA Info acquired Gothamist, and we're in the process of sort of merging. So we decided that the best way to get what everyone wants, which is a strong neighborhood news outlet, is for the workers to have a voice at the table. And we feel really strongly that we are on the same side as our management and our owner and investor. We feel like we all want the same thing, and we just think that the best way to do that is for us to have a collective voice. So we're really looking forward to that, proceeding amicably and working with our management to.
Well, we'll
That's-
definitely keep our eye
It's a
on
new
it.
day in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and talk about how it's going to impact the future of our news, our
It's going to
daily
be great.
clicks.
It's going to
Here
be
we go.
great.
All right, we'll be watching. Thanks for joining us, guys.